I'm Gail O'Brien. I am an Uber judge. I'm an executive coach and a columnist, and I have appreciated the excitement of IBEC every year. I'm delighted that you're all with us. I'm going to read the 10-minute presentation that I'm sure you already know the parameters, but after your meeting yesterday, you have been called back by the company you gave your full presentation to for a second visit. They've asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You only have 10 minutes. There will be no Q&A. You may not use slides or video, and you need to be talking directly to the audience, not looking at notes or anything, because this is how you make a real connection with the audience that you're addressing. You don't want more than 2 or 3 members of your team to do this. And be excited because in fact, you're being invited back. And in a couple of years, as if you are consultants, you will have the same feeling, only it will be real this time. So good luck. And the first team is Sharif.
Yeah, we are. Okay, allow me to start. Good morning, dear board members. We are Persia Consulting Group from Sharif University of Technology. We would like to express our gratitude for inviting us back to further discuss the ethical issues that your petrochemical company is facing. Unfortunately, our dear colleague Nima won't be able to participate in the presentation due to some unforeseen circumstances. However, my colleague Ali and I will proceed with the presentation as planned. As you may recall, the 2 main problems that you originally presented to us were the following. First, challenges with the local authorities in the South Pars region. The problem was that the local authorities seemed to be pulling back their support for the petrochemical plant. This has made it challenging for the company to obtain the necessary permits and has caused significant costs and delays in the way of the growth plans that the company has in the region.
Relates to social frictions between the local community on one hand and the company and its plant employees on the other hand. This has led to protests and damage to company property, and in worst case scenarios, physical aggression among employees and local residents.
Based on our analysis, these problems are rooted in the perceived inequality in the eyes of community members of the South Pars region. When the company first decided to choose this region for building their plant, the authorities were super welcoming and happy because they thought it would be bringing jobs, investment, and development to the region. But after the plant became operational, they gradually realized that the plant is more like an island disconnected from the region. Almost all the plant employees are flying in from other cities. So that meant no job creation for local residents. The plant managers and employees had a tendency to avoid mingling with local residents and purchasing local products. It was jokingly said that they are used to order their fish, even fish, from Tehran, while there are plenty of fisheries in the region. Considering these signs, local residents as well as local authorities, who are their political representatives, gradually arrived at the conclusion that the company managers and employees are getting wealthy by using the region's resources, but the local residents are receiving no benefits from the percent of the plant. All they receive is water and air pollution, increased rate of diseases, increased cost of living, and damaged reputation of the region as a tourist destination. This is an extremely unequal deal, and it is first and foremost an ethical issue, which erupts here and there as conflicts and social friction between the company and local community.
We propose 4 solutions to address this perceived inequality. Now we outline these 4 solutions, particularly stressing the ethical dimension. Our first solution is to develop mutually beneficial work interdependencies. This consists of 2 parts. The first part involves training and hiring local workforce to be employed in the petrochemical plant. This means a larger part of the company's profit would go to local people and stay in the region, which contributes to the reduction of economic deprivation in the region. The second part of the first solution involves the development of value chains and downstream industries in the region, using local capacities. This will increase the involvement of local people in the industry, leading to softening of social divisions, as well as reduction of unemployment rates and the sense of inequality. A significant outcome of this solution is that the industry's ecosystem will provide the opportunity of being an entrepreneur and a business owner for local residents.
Our second solution is to give out community shares in order to instill a sense of belonging in the community, which by itself mitigates the perceived inequality. We propose that the company gives an exclusive right to local residents. This would enable every local resident to purchase discounted stocks out of the petrochemical company up to a limit. This will make them direct beneficiaries of the company and will lead to a sense of ownership rather than alienation among the local community.
Our third solution is to promote integration of company employees with the local community culture. This consists of 2 sub-solutions. First, to promote activities to further understanding of and respecting the local culture. For example, regular visits can be arranged for company managers to sit down with community leaders. Participation of plant employees in local ceremonies and rituals can also be emphasized. Occasionally, some rituals and ceremonies can be sponsored by the company as a sign of respect and support for the local community. The second sub-solution here is to partner with local NGOs in addressing the pressing issues of the community. This would provide opportunities for employees to donate their time, skills, or money in order to meaningfully contribute to the desired goals of the local community. Doing so will improve the employees' social contribution as well as the company's reputation.
Our fourth and last solution is to minimize the environmental costs that plant operation is imposing of the community members. The remedial activities that can be considered ranges from minimal but necessary measures such as filters, smokestack scrubbers, and seawater discharge systems to more comprehensive state-of-the-art preventive technologies. Our proposal for the company is to be mindful of the long-term cost of no action and choose the optimum path to reduce flaring. Implementation of technical measures to minimize environmental harm also has the potential to position the company as leaders in the environmental stewardship.
In conclusion, the ethical issues facing the petrochemical company in the Southwest region are rooted in the perceived inequality by the local community. The company must take a proactive approach to address these issues by developing mutually beneficial work interdependencies, issuing stock options to the local community, integrating with the local culture, and sustaining the environment. By implementing these solutions, the company can foster a long-term relationship with the local community and position itself as a leader in environmental stewardship. It is essential that the company takes these ethical concerns seriously to gain the support of the community and plan for future growth. Thank you for your attention and have a good day.
Thank you very much. What I'm going to do is take a minute for me to, and the judges who are going to give you feedback, to put some thoughts together. And then I will give feedback at the very end after all three teams have presented. So I'm going to take my minute, and the judges may do the same and make some notes. So you can breathe easily, and I'll be back with you. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation, and appreciate for you and everyone else who is doing this, the amount of work and time and thought that goes into it. It really matters to have this practice. So congratulations. And the next team that we have the privilege of hearing is RANEPA. So would the individuals who are presenting? I will.
Thank you for your attention.
No,
This is
I'm sorry.
Louis.
Wait a minute. Before you start, I need to read you the same thing that I read to the other team, just because it's so important that everybody understand exactly what's expected. You have been called back by the company you have given your full presentation to for a second visit. They've asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You have 10 minutes. There will be no Q&A. You may not use slides or video. You probably will not have more than 2 or 3 members of your team to do this. Are you ready to begin?
We understand. Yes, thank you. We're ready.
And I'm going to hit the 10 minutes. So you'll hit your 10 minutes. So you'll know when your time
Sure.
is up. I'm starting.
Thank you. The Sergey will start.
I'm starting
you.
now.
So, dear board members, we represent the FNP team, and our strategy addresses many ethical problems of copper mining, which we will now tell you about the ways to solve. So, recent technological advances are creating new markets for high-tech goods and allowing them to grow steadily. That growth is fueled by raw material. Metals are considered the most important, and that's why mining industry is so important to the global economy. However, research shows that it's also notorious for ethical controversies. Mining has severe negative social environmental impact, and our primary goal is to reduce the overall negative impact of mining as much as possible. We believe that the most ethically important sector of the mining industry is copper mining, because copper makes up a large part of supply chains, and it is also associated with several serious ethical problems. The large scale of copper mining makes these problems even more important. That's why the ethical problems of copper mining are the most urgent to address. They can be divided into 3 broad groups according to the ESG framework: environmental, social, and governance. And our goal is to propose a complex solution that will reduce the negative impact in each area. So there are several examples of environmental problems associated with copper mining. Chile is famous for its copper industry, but it comes at a price. The Chiquicamata mine has polluted the area of mining so badly that the producer, Codelco Corporation, has been forced to relocate employees and their families 17 kilometers away. The pollution is dangerous for the human health, and the town above the mine had to be abandoned completely because of extreme pollution. Such consequences should be seen as the serious threat to local prosperity, which is outweighing the economic benefits of the mine. Environmental violations also occur in Myanmar. In 2015, a toxic waste spill from the lead Padang copper mine leaked into the fields of a local village, destroying all the crops. The government didn't release any information about the health risks, but the danger was obvious. Such a lack of information clearly violates the ethical principle of transparency. Moreover, in developing countries such as Myanmar, crop destruction can lead to malnutrition or even famine, outweighing any economic benefits. Myanmar can also be an example of social problems. According to the MNS reports, the owner of the lead Padang mine, One Bao Mining, is threatening locals with forced evictions to expand the mine. As of 2016, the eviction plan has been suspended following protests, but the company still intends to complete it. The locals live in constant fear of eviction, which is certainly detrimental to the social well-being of the area and violates the principle of justice. Another international NGO, Human Rights Watch, published a report on the social problems of copper mining in Zambia. It describes a situation around Chinese-owned copper mines, where the local workers were severely mistreated. Poor working conditions and human rights abuses are a real threat to workers' well-being and a violation of the principle of fairness, while anti-union actions violate freedom of association and therefore pose a threat to democracy. Governance issues also threaten the ethical image of copper mining. For example, in 2007, the Chinese company MCC signed an agreement with the Afghan government to build a copper mine near the ancient city of Mes Aynak, possibly destroying it. The process was paused in 2017, but Western news outlets still assume that MCC's interests include Mes Aynak. Such actions increase the level of corruption in the country and threaten the national cultural heritage, which is ethically unacceptable and violates the principle of transparency. Sometimes cases of corruption are disguised as joint ventures. In 2021, for example, the Canadian company Ivanhoe Mines Ltd signed a deal with a high-ranking government official in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ivanhoe would give him 20% of the shares in the new copper mine in exchange for protecting the company during negotiations with the DRC government, so-called special treatment. Such situations are ethically unacceptable because a bribe can make the deal acceptable to the government even if it doesn't meet safety criteria, which is dangerous to society and completely unfair to other companies in the market. Therefore, we can say that ethical problems in the copper mining industry exist in many areas and can have a negative impact on the mining area or the entire country. They are so urgent to solve because they violate key ethical principles such as fairness, transparency, and justice, and can have devastating consequences for local residents, employees, wildlife, state integrity, and overall social prosperity. My colleague Arat will continue on our solutions for the problem. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Sergey. So, sometimes companies try to solve social ethical problems or at least limit their negative impact. Chilean company Codelco invested large sums in environmental safety, but it was clearly not enough. Its activities still pose an environmental threat, so the solution doesn't outweigh the damage done. And One Bao Mining in Myanmar tried to hold talks with local people, but the compromise wasn't reached. And it simply used state force to crack down on the protesting locals, which is clearly unfair to the locals and completely unfair. Chinese companies in Zambia forced to conduct negotiations with workers, but health and safety risks remained high, and Chinese supervisors continued to mistreat workers. The measures remain disproportionate to the damage done. And corruption cases in Afghanistan and the DRC show that the companies can't solve such problems on their own. Both problems solved because the state prosecuted corrupt officials. But what would happen if they stayed aside? So, copper mining companies involved in ethical controversies try to hide or reduce the negative impacts. But the damage remains significant and ethical principles are still violated. But will market leaders with strong ESG policies be more effective in addressing these controversies? We decided to explore this question using the example of the large mining company Nickel. It has developed a diverse and strong ESG policy, which makes ethical violations in every area much less common and dangerous compared to small copper producers. However, it isn't flawless. It is implemented slowly and inefficiently in some areas, and sometimes declared ethical principles like respecting local people's rights and preventing corruption aren't fully implemented. Therefore, Using non-nickel as an example, we can conclude that copper market leaders with well-developed energy policies are more likely to successfully prevent and resolve ethical issues, but their solution often still violates some key ethical principles. We believe that the industry needs new corporate ESG policies because existing ones do not address many of the ethical issues. We have compiled a short list of issues that remain pressing for copper mining companies. First, condition monitoring of industrial facilities isn't universal. Second, environmental policies are implemented ineffectively. Third, local people's rights may be abused. Next, mechanisms for electing or appointing top company officials may be opaque. And of course, companies may use corruption schemes to avoid compliance with the law. We offer a solution to these problems that can be implemented by a company, even without government support, which can be absent in developing countries. We're proposing a plan to implement the online monitoring system on every single facility without exception to significantly reduce the probability of environmental accidents, which is clearly ethical. Such a monitoring system will also increase workplace safety, which will reduce harm done to the employees. Ineffective implementation of environmental policies can be solved by introducing a system of bonuses, which will be awarded to members of top-level corporate governance bodies who are responsible for the company's ESG development proportionally to their contribution. Their non-bonus wages should be significantly reduced. Such measure will help the company reduce the harm done to the society and environment and will be fair to the management. The non-transparent mechanism of electing or appointing top company officials can be improved by developing new regulations on the board of directors, which will specify the formal ethical requirements for candidates. Such a measure will put the principle of transparency into practice, which will significantly increase the ethicality of companies. The rights of locals can be protected by hiring a permanent observer from the ESG auditing firm to mediate any conflicts between locals and the corporation. The corporation can also send its representatives to local communities to reduce the frequency of conflicts. Such measures will help the company to treat people more fairly and actively. In order to reduce corruption, the corporation should assign special employees, so-called law enforcement relations specialists, to each local subsidiary. They will be considered corruption-proof because they will report only to the board of directors, and they will be given exclusive authority to contact law enforcement agencies in the country. This measure will significantly increase corporate transparency, which is important for an ethical image. So, copper mining is very profitable, but it is still associated with several ethical problems in different areas. Small companies operating in developing countries take limited steps to mitigate the negative impact of these problems, but they're usually not enough to offset the damage. Larger companies with well-developed ESG policies are more likely to prevent or resolve such problems. But even their policies are flawed, meaning that ethical principles such as justice, equality, transparency, and fairness are still violated. And that's why we propose a complex set of measures, strategy, which requires investment. But in the medium and long term, they will pay off financially and significantly improve the company's ethical image. After the implementation of these measures, the company's efforts will outweigh the damage done, while key ethical principles will be fully implemented. We sincerely thank you for your attention and hope that the strategy we have proposed will increase the ethics of copper mining as much as possible.
Thank you very much. I will take a minute and make some notes. All right, thank you very much. And now it's Oxford. What I love about the 10-minute is that it's great practice for students when they get to be, if they choose to be consultants going forward. I'm going to read the same statement that I know that you now have heard twice. However, each team needs to hear it. And I also want to reinforce what I said at the beginning, which is that this is a presentation where it's really important to be looking at the audience and to not be looking at the computer or notes or anything else. You have been called back by the company you gave your full presentation to for a second visit. They have asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You will have 10 minutes. There will be no Q&A. You may not use slides or video. You probably will have only 2 to 3 members of your team do this. And I will set my timer for 10 minutes if you indeed will do the same thing. And it really is important that you stop immediately or finish the first sentence. Or finish your sentence when you see that your timer is about to go off. It's not my intent to be rude to interrupt anyone, but that is the rules that we are looking at a 10-minute.
Hi, I think Teresa, our lead, her internet has just dropped out. I think
Oh dear.
she's frozen, but hopefully she's just about to appear again.
Well, we'll wait.
Sorry.
If she needs help, Michael, can you be of any help?
Hi, hello. Yeah, I'm really sorry my internet dropped out, but I should.
You're back? Yes, you're back. Obviously, I can see you. Okay. Are you ready, team? All right. Hit your 10 minutes and I will too.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. Hello and good morning. On behalf of Oxford Ethical Consulting Group, I would like to extend a big thank you to Rousselot Incorporated for inviting us back to speak to you today about the ethics regarding our proposal on yeast-based collagen. So currently, Rousselot Incorporated is a leading manufacturer of collagen. But as I am sure you are aware, all of your products are animal derived. Because of a shift in legal trends, which suggests that in Europe, where Rousselot is based, there will be restrictions put in place on intensive animal agriculture and greenhouse gas emissions, as well as the ethical issues that we'll be discussing today. Oxford Ethical Consulting Group has recommended that Rousselot shift away from an animal-derived product and move towards a yeast-based future. This yeast-based collagen will be manufactured from genetically modified yeast and will address the legal and ethical issues mentioned above, as well as bringing Rousselot into the future market. This product manufactured in-house will mean that Rousselot will be less dependent on external markets, market fluctuations, and will open up vast market share in the Asia-Pacific region, which is where the highest predicted regional growth will be in the collagen market. Due to the fact that this product is halal, vegetarian, and hypoallergenic in nature, it will really take Rousselot into the future of collagen manufacturing. But today we wanted to give you a deep dive on the ethical issues pertaining this proposal. So firstly, we're going to talk to you about your company, Rousselot, and your values, your environmental social governance commitments. Secondly, my colleague Susie will talk about the animal and worker problems of this industry. And then my colleague Emma will discuss environmental and health problems. So firstly, looking at Rousselot's values and your ESG commitments. Again, as I'm sure you are aware, you have 3 pillars and 3 main values. Firstly, looking at health and well-being, the nutrition of your consumer, creating functional ingredients. And what we find particularly pertinent to yeast-based production as well is Rousselot's goal to have one new health innovation each year. And we think our proposal can really help further this. The second pillar, looking at communities and workplaces, Rousselot already has incredibly strong commitments in providing a safe work environment for all of its workers. However, we believe that this can kind of be extended throughout the supply chain and looking at the conditions of workers in the animal agriculture industry. Thirdly, looking at responsible production. So this is looking at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, energy efficiency, as well as responsible sourcing of animal carcasses. And again, we believe this is a value that the yeast-based solution can really strengthen within Rousselot. So now I'd like to pass on to my colleague, Susie.
Thank you, Teresa, for giving us an overview of Rousselot's values. So now we're going to talk about the ethical concerns regarding animals in this industry. While it is good that Rousselot's ESG framework considers the responsible production of collagen, meeting the legal requirement alone is not enough, especially because companies might not be able to control how animals are treated throughout the whole production chain. So, by producing animal-based collagen, Rousselot contributes to the large-scale exploitation of animals. Animal-based collagen is made from the carcasses of animals such as cows, pigs, and fish, which are bought from the food industry. According to a report of the UN Food and Agricultural Organization, over 70 billion land animals are raised and over 1 trillion fish are caught annually for food. In these industries, why is it important to care about how animals are treated? And why is this a deeply ethical issue? Because according to the Federal National Institute of Health and the University of Oxford, animals, including fish, can feel pain. And in these industries, animals endure a life of suffering for our consumption. Animals used for collagen are often confined in small spaces with little room to move, with no access to sunlight or the outdoors. And they are also subject to painful procedures such as castration without painkillers. The fishing industry also employs methods that cause a significant amount of pain to fish, such as gill netting, which suffocates them. So the use of animal products for collagen, regardless of whether it is a byproduct or not, remains morally questionable as it continues to support the unethical treatment of animals. The impact of using animal products goes beyond animal welfare, as it also impacts the life of the people working in these industries, which are usually from marginalized communities. Exposure to animal cruelty and death on a daily basis has shown to cause severe mental health problems, such as anxiety, high levels of stress, trauma, and depression. A famous study conducted by Dr. Amy Fitzgerald from the University of Windsor found out that communities that had slaughterhouses in their neighborhoods had higher crime rates than other communities. These included homicide, assault, and rape. So these are just some of the ethical concerns, and now my colleague Emma will continue to talk about the environment.
Thank you, Susie, for the introduction. So the majority of animal-based collagen is produced with bovine carcasses sourced from industrial farming facilities. Cattle farming accounts for 41% of all livestock emissions. Beyond this simple addition of carbon emissions, cattle farming is incredibly resource intensive and puts a significant strain on water, grains for feeding, animal waste, and land. Currently, over 45% of all land on Earth is used for livestock feeding. The global demand for cattle and cattle products has been driving deforestation in some of the world's most fragile and important ecosystems. For example, cattle farming has accounted for 80% of all rainforest clearing in the Amazon. The other main source of collagen is marine collagen, made from a wide array of fish skin and scales. The industrial fishing industry directly contributes to the overfishing of very important cornerstone species in marine life. Even the wild caught label on most marine collagen products still relies on the overharvesting of marine species. Additionally, the process of shipping, purifying, processing, and packaging animal products to develop into collagen is incredibly energy and water intensive. It also relies on the release of heavy chemicals such as alkaline and bleach in order to separate the skins and collagen. These chemicals have been known to cause significant issues for waterway and water pollution. Yeast-based collagen has a significantly smaller impact on the environment as it can be manufactured in-house, reducing the need for transport. And the greenhouse gas emission through energy needed to manufacture and process yeast is far less than that emitted by animal sources. And additionally, it doesn't have the same mass level of pollution produced as well. In terms of health, the industrial scale production of animal products has been linked to the emergence and spread of diseases like COVID-19. The concentration of animals in places where animals are raised for slaughter can create a space in which viruses can jump to humans through zoonosis transmissions. After witnessing the catastrophic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that this is a very important factor to take into account. Additionally, these large-scale farming industries release gases into the air, such as ammonia, and this can cause significant health issues for people living nearby these facilities. Next, my colleague Teresa will conclude and tie all of these factors back together and explain why this is so important to Rousselot.
Thank you, Emma. So, as Emma mentioned, I just want to bring all of this back to your company and Rousselot's values. So again, looking at your first pillar, health and well-being. As my colleague Emma has mentioned, by shifting to a yeast-based solution, we would avoid contributing to the spread and creation of zoonotic diseases like COVID-19. We would also be avoiding harmful waste products that affect the health and well-being of communities all over the globe. And as a hypoallergenic product, yeast-based collagen would be directly contributing to your consumers' welfare. Secondly, looking at communities and workplaces, as my colleague Susie has mentioned, by moving away from animal agriculture and animal-derived products, it means that we are not supporting the exploitation of workers within this animal industry. Thirdly, looking at responsible sourcing, both as Emma mentioned in terms of environmental issues, and as Susie has mentioned in terms of responsible sourcing. By moving to a yeast-based solution, we can avoid animal welfare issues by not contributing to the pain and suffering of these animals and save the environment. So yeast-based collagen can help us create a clean and compassionate future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am going to take a minute and I will be right back with you. All right. Thank you very much. We have now concluded the three presentations for this morning. I will ask Sean, if you would like to start with comments that you might feel would be of benefit to our first speaker, which is Sharif, forgive me.
Okay, thank you, Gail. So I had some questions. I just had some questions.
Actually, wait a minute. They're not going to be able to answer the questions.
Oh, sorry. So
Yeah.
okay.
So you're
Yes.
giving feedback
Yes.
on, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt,
Okay.
but I just want to be
No,
clear.
you're right. You're right. So basically, I thought it was very interesting, well presented. I thought it was well thought out as far as social friction created between the local residents and the petrochemical company. Unfortunately, this is something that occurs all over the world. And also, unfortunately, this is something that has not been addressed enough in multinationals in general. It is typically expatriate behavior to stay in a bubble and to, as you said, order your fish from Tehran instead of buying it locally. No, congratulations. I enjoyed that.
Thank you very much. And I am sorry, is it Andy? The other, oh yeah, Kevin, forgive me.
There you go.
I'll get it right.
That's all right. Just a little background. I'm a retired college professor, students. And I've had two teams in competition, so I'm well aware of all the extra work you've put into this, because it's a big lift, and I can tell that you're well prepared, and I think you did well. I think, and I'm saying this broad-based for everybody, so I don't have to say it 3 times, but I think you did it, and you took on some big topics. I thought that was great. What I would like to say for our friends here, Sharif and from Tehran, that's a big topic, and I think you and I think that speaks well. I really had the impression that you are consultants, in your presentation, so I thought that went well. I liked your solutions. I thought that they were it was a comprehensive approach. I have that down, broad-based, and there's strength in that. I would, as a critique, and I would say this critique for all 3 of our presenters is that ethics builds strength in an organization. And when you have people that are working for a company that is ethically directed or ethically orientated, that permeates down through your organization. And that's a very important strength, because people like to say, oh, I work for this company, and everybody knows that company is ethically orientated. And so that's one of that's a critique. And but that's one that I would just have you think about going forward in tying your presentations to that. But gentlemen, well done. Very appreciate. It's worth getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to hear that. So
Thanks very much, Kevin. I want to make sure we end at I believe at 9. So I want to make sure that we all get the right feedback. I was impressed with the presence of both of the presenters. I thought that the 4 solutions were very logically effective. My concern is that, and this is true for all 3 presentations, we have to figure out how to balance the background information that you want to give to set up the company with the reality that you are expecting and hoping that you will be selected based on the effectiveness of the information that you're providing. And you got, it was 1 minute and 54 seconds before almost the end of it, before things got, pulled together. And I think that the information was terrific. And I'm hoping you come back next year. Think about the fact that you really are playing the role of a consultant, and a consultant and a company knows what their problems are. So there's a limit to how much information you need to provide to them about what the situation is. The strength of your success, should you ever want to be a consultant, is that you get to the depth of what it is that you offer in terms of your intellect and your capacity that makes them see something new and different, and makes them move in a way that they can see the change they need to make. Because change is really hard. Nobody wants to do that often. And so it was a good presentation. I think you had a lot more that you could have invested in talking about why your solution is really going to benefit them. Simply because companies want to hear about themselves. But I think that it was a complicated issue. I think you did a very good job. I just want to suggest that for the future. All right, thank you. And the next team is, I have so many pieces of paper that I can't even, it is obviously RANEPA. So I'll invite, we only have 10 minutes left, so I'll invite both Sean and Kevin to make brief comments about what they felt was effective and what they thought as a potential suggestion.
Okay, well, I'll start. For the first comment it's constructive criticism. I just thought that the first person, I can't remember your name, but you spoke very, very quickly for me. So I really had to hang on to every word to be able to follow you. So that's important when you communicate a strategy, is to make sure that you're speaking slowly enough so that everybody's following. Very interesting topic, copper mining, very relevant to today's world. I thought you had done good research with your examples, whether it be Chile, Myanmar, and what was it, the DRC, Zambia too. You spoke of corruption, you spoke of pollution, you spoke of the lack of human rights. I think your solutions were interesting. I am not sure that they would be easily implemented, and I am not sure that a copper mining company would go that way.
Thank you very much. Kevin?
Sergey, also, I would agree with Sean. You've got to you're very intense. Slow down your presentation, that's all. Ariat, I thought you were, you want to have a little better eye contact. That's just on the presentation side. But I thought it was, and the only critique I would have is that, you outlined the problem 3 different ways, or 3 different incidents. Just put it down to 1, and that kind of covers all of them. And then, because your solutions I thought were good, and I thought that you did a lot of good work on it. And so, good job.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I think that I admire so much the capacity to deal with really complex subjects. And I think that that's what the world needs. And I think it's important and to have the capacity to dig into something like that. Again, for me, it's an issue of you got to the heart of things in the last 4 minutes. And I think that that's a challenge, because your job as a consultant is to work with what you know that the company needs to accomplish, as well as helping them see the benefit to them. And I think that because the company already knows the problems that they have and what the situation is, it's really important for you to dig more deeply than you did in the 25-minute yesterday. That's just, I mean, it's a problem that everybody, has, but mentioning it to you and hoping that you come back next year is a way to, I hope, definitively allow you to use your ethical information, and because that may not be a strength, obviously, for the company you're talking about, going into what the benefit to them is of the ethics, I think is really important. I thought it was a well-done presentation. I thought you handled the noise that was going on in the background with great professionalism. It's not easy to handle that. And so I thought that was great. So we have only 6 minutes left. So I invite both of my Sean and Kevin to give feedback to Oxford as quickly as you can.
Okay, I'll try to go very fast. Very interesting again, fascinating topic. I just wondered while I was listening to you, especially at the end, about, the production of yeast-based collagen and how that, would it be as profitable for the company as animal-based? That was my only, I needed more info on that, but that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, thank you. All right. So Kevin, would you like
Yeah.
to?
Right. I felt what I really like about Oxford is you tied it to the values of the company. I think that strengthens your presentation, and very well broad-based, very well organized and presented. I thought that you had good presentation content, and I followed it. All three of them I learned. When I come out of an experience and I learn something with 3 presentations, it's a good deal. So Gail?
Thank you very much. It's not my job. I mean, obviously, after all the hard work that all 3 of you have done, compliments would be, absolutely something fabulous for you to hear. And all of you should feel, I hope, complimented by the fact that you developed and gave a tremendous amount of work. But my job is to make sure that you get information that allows you to be even more effective the next time you do this. So I just want to say that because all of you were really good. Oxford, you made a passionate and an effective overall series of comments about what the company needs to do. That's wonderful. The challenge is that all of the things that you said were really well balanced. I mean, were well expressed. And this is true for all of the companies all of the presentations today. Think about the fact that companies are less interested in what they can do for the world, what they can do for the environment, what they can do for others, than they are about themselves. So the balance of how you share what is the right thing to do with why the right thing to do is going to help and support their business is a focus that makes it more palatable for leaders to be willing to shift. So think about the reality that everything was done really well. There was a great way of, you did a great job of how you put this together. But there was only 1 minute and 24 seconds to tie it all together. And when you're doing a kind of presentation where you're eager for a company to make changes, and this is true for all of you, you need to think about the balance between what they can tolerate. And even though this was a hypothetical situation, for each of the companies, there's a place where they are able to see that they're being able to benefit their own employees and their own shareholders and their own whatever, as well as developing an understanding of how their values are being brought in. And you did bring up the values, which I think is important. Sometimes it's extremely helpful to give back to somebody a value that they say they have and use that point to show how that will even more strengthen what they say they stand for. Because a lot of times values are what they came up with them. So using those values is a very powerful way to get them to see something a little differently. I think that the three teams did a terrific job. I think you should all feel really good about what you did. And I hope that the feedback that you've been given from all of us gives you an idea of how you could use the 10-minute time next year more effectively to go more deeply into ethics rather than the bigger picture. But congratulations to all of you. I think that it was a pleasure to hear this. And what's really exciting is to know that there are graduate students like you who will make a difference in the world. And this is just a beginning of how you begin to think about approaching it. So with that, anyone have any quick questions from the teams before I let you go to do your, and good luck on your 90-second. Thank you very much to judges and to all of you teammates and to your coaches who did a great job of supporting you. Thank you.